My ladies and gentlemen, what if the biggest battle you're fighting right now isn't around you, but inside you? What if the reason you feel stuck, discouraged, or overwhelmed isn't your situation, but your thoughts about your situation? Because here's the truth. Your life is always moving in the direction of your strongest thoughts. If your thoughts are negative, your life will feel negative. If your thoughts are fearful, your life will feel controlled by fear. But if your thoughts are aligned with God's truth, your life will begin to change. Your thoughts have incredible power, more than most people realize. Every day, thousands of thoughts pass through your mind, and over time, those thoughts begin to shape the way you see yourself, the way you see others, and the way you respond to life. What you consistently think about doesn't just stay in your mind. It slowly becomes your reality. If you constantly think thoughts of fear, doubt, and negativity, those thoughts begin to influence your emotions, your decisions, and ultimately your actions. And your actions create your life. In the same way, when your thoughts are filled with truth, faith, and hope, they begin to guide you toward confidence, peace, and purpose. Many people believe their life is controlled only by their circumstances, but the truth is that two people can go through the same situation and experience completely different outcomes. The difference is often found in their thinking. One person may focus on the problem, feel defeated, and give up, while another focuses on possibility, trusts God, and keeps moving forward. The situation may be the same, but their thoughts create a completely different direction. This is why your thoughts matter so much. They are not just reactions, they are seeds. And whatever you plant in your mind will eventually grow in your life. Negative thinking can become a trap if it is left unchecked. When you repeatedly tell yourself that you are not good enough, that you will fail, or that nothing will change, those thoughts begin to feel like truth even when they are not. Over time, they limit your potential and keep you stuck in fear and insecurity. On the other hand, when you begin to think in alignment with God's truth, something powerful happens inside you. Your mindset shifts. You begin to see opportunities instead of obstacles, purpose instead of confusion, and strength instead of weakness. Your thoughts also influence your faith. If your mind is filled with doubt, it becomes difficult to trust God fully. But when your thoughts are rooted in His promises, your faith grows stronger. You begin to believe that God is with you, that He is working in your life, and that your future is in His hands. This kind of thinking produces peace, even in difficult moments, and gives you the courage to keep going when life feels uncertain. Taking control of your thoughts means becoming aware of what you are allowing into your mind and choosing to focus on what is true, pure, and uplifting. It means rejecting lies and replacing them with truth again and again until your thinking begins to change. And when your thinking changes, your perspective changes. When your perspective changes, your decisions change. And when your decisions change, your life begins to move in a new direction, because what you think consistently will always shape who you become and where you are going. The real battle in life is not what you see happening around you, but what is happening within you. Long before struggles show up in your circumstances, they begin as thoughts in your mind. Every fear, every doubt, every temptation, and every discouraging voice starts internally. That is why the mind becomes the central place where victories are won or lost. You may think your biggest problems are external, people, pressure, situations, but the truth is those things only gain power when they influence your thinking. If your mind is strong and grounded in truth, you can stand firm even when everything around you feels unstable. Many people spend their lives trying to fix what is happening on the outside without ever addressing what is happening on the inside. They try to change their environment, their relationships, or their circumstances, but still feel stuck, overwhelmed, or defeated. The reason is simple. If the mind is not renewed, the same patterns will continue to repeat. You can change your surroundings, but if your thinking stays the same, your experience will remain the same. This is why the battle in the mind is so important. It determines how you interpret everything else. There is a constant tension in your thoughts. On one side, there are voices of truth, faith, and hope. On the other side, there are lies, fear, insecurity, and doubt. These opposing forces are always competing for your attention. The thoughts you choose to focus on are the ones that will grow stronger. If you entertain negative thinking, it begins to take root and shape your beliefs. If you dwell on fear, it will slowly control your decisions. But if you focus on truth and hold on to faith, your mind becomes a place of strength rather than weakness. One of the biggest challenges is that many of these battles are invisible. No one else can see what you are thinking, but you feel it deeply. You might look calm on the outside while your mind is filled with chaos. You might appear confident, yet inside you are fighting insecurity. This hidden struggle is where the real fight takes place. And because it is unseen, it requires intentional effort to deal with it. You cannot ignore it or hope it goes away on its own. You have to confront it. Taking control of this battle means becoming aware of your thoughts and learning to challenge them. Not every thought deserves your agreement. Some thoughts need to be rejected immediately because they are not aligned with truth. When a thought tells you that you are not enough, that you will fail, or that things will never improve, you have a choice to make. You can either accept it and let it control you, or you can replace it with truth and take your power back. Strength in life does not come from having no struggles, but from winning the internal battles that those struggles create. When your mind is disciplined, focused, and filled with truth, it becomes your greatest weapon. You begin to respond differently, think differently, and live differently. Because once you learn to win the battle in your mind, you are no longer controlled by what happens around you, but guided by what you believe within. Not every thought that enters your mind deserves to be believed, yet many people live as if every thought is a fact. The mind is constantly producing ideas, reactions, memories, and assumptions, but not all of them are accurate or helpful. Some thoughts are influenced by past experiences, some by fear, and others by negative voices you have heard over time. If you are not careful, you can begin to accept these thoughts as truth without ever questioning them. This is where many struggles begin, because believing the wrong thoughts leads to the wrong emotions, and those emotions influence your actions. It is important to understand that your mind can sometimes work against you. It can exaggerate problems, create false fears, and convince you of things that are simply not real. For example, a single mistake can lead to the thought that you are a failure, even though that is not true. A moment of rejection can make you believe you are not valued, even though your worth has not changed. These thoughts feel real in the moment, but feelings are not always reliable indicators of truth. If you build your life on every thought you have, you will constantly feel unstable and uncertain. Many negative thoughts come from deeply rooted beliefs that have been formed over time. If you have experienced criticism, failure, or disappointment, your mind may start to develop patterns that reflect those experiences. You may begin to think you are not good enough, that you will never succeed, or that things will always go wrong. These thoughts can become automatic, repeating themselves without you even realizing it. But just because a thought is repeated often does not make it true. Repetition does not equal reality. Learning to recognize false thoughts is a powerful step toward freedom. It requires you to slow down and examine what you are thinking instead of immediately accepting it. When a negative thought enters your mind, you can ask yourself whether it is based on truth or simply driven by fear or insecurity. This awareness helps you create distance between you and the thought so it no longer controls you automatically. You begin to realize that you have the ability to choose which thoughts you agree with and which ones you reject. Replacing false thoughts with truth is what transforms the way you think and live. When you choose to focus on what is true, your perspective begins to change. Instead of seeing yourself through the lens of failure, you begin to see growth and potential. Instead of expecting the worst, you start to believe that things can improve. This shift does not happen instantly, but with consistency, your mind becomes stronger and more aligned with truth. The more you practice rejecting lies and embracing truth, the more control you gain over your inner world. Your thoughts no longer dominate you in the same way, and you begin to experience greater peace and clarity. You stop reacting to every negative idea and start responding with intention, knowing that not every thought deserves your belief, and that real strength comes from choosing truth over assumption every single day. Replacing lies with God's truth is one of the most powerful shifts a person can make in their life, because what you allow to remain in your mind will eventually shape how you live. Lies often enter quietly, sometimes sounding very convincing, and over time, they begin to influence how you see yourself, your future, and even God. These lies can sound like, I'm not enough, I'll never change, or God has forgotten me. When these thoughts are repeated often enough, they begin to feel true, even though they are not. This is why it is not enough to simply ignore negative thinking. If a lie is not removed and replaced, it will continue to grow and take root in your heart. The key is not just resisting lies, but actively replacing them with truth. Truth has the power to correct what is wrong and restore what has been distorted. God's truth is not based on your feelings, your past, or your current situation. It is constant, reliable, and unchanging. When your mind is filled with that truth, it begins to reshape your perspective. Instead of seeing yourself through the lens of failure, you begin to see yourself as someone who is loved, chosen, and capable through God's strength. This transformation starts internally, but it eventually becomes visible in the way you think, speak, and act. One important step in this process is recognizing the lies for what they are. Many people struggle because they never question their thoughts. They assume that if something comes to mind, it must be valid. But not every thought comes from a place of truth. Some are rooted in fear, insecurity, or past pain. When you become aware of these patterns, you gain the ability to challenge them. Instead of agreeing with a negative thought, you can pause and compare it with what God's truth says. This creates a moment of decision where you can choose what to believe. Replacing lies with truth requires intentional effort. It is not automatic and it does not happen overnight. You have to consistently feed your mind with what is true. This may involve reading and reflecting on God's word, reminding yourself of his promises, and speaking truth out loud even when you do not feel it. Over time, this repetition begins to form new patterns in your thinking. The lies that once felt strong begin to lose their power, and truth starts to take their place. This process also changes your emotional response to life. When lies dominate your thinking, they often produce fear, anxiety, and discouragement. But when truth fills your mind, it brings peace, confidence, and hope. You begin to approach challenges differently because your foundation is no longer built on uncertainty. Instead, it is grounded in something that does not change. This gives you stability even when your circumstances are difficult. Choosing truth over lies is something that must be done daily. Every situation will present an opportunity to believe one or the other. The more you choose truth, the stronger your mind becomes, and the easier it is to reject what is false. Over time, this creates a mindset that is not easily shaken because it is anchored in something greater than temporary thoughts or emotions, and this is where real transformation begins to take place in a person's life from the inside out. Transformation in life does not begin with what is happening around you. It begins with what is happening within you, specifically in your mind. Many people wait for their circumstances to change before they believe their life will improve. But real and lasting change starts much deeper than that. It starts with the way you think. Your thoughts influence how you see everything, yourself, your challenges, your future, and even your relationship with God. If your thinking remains the same, your life will tend to follow the same patterns, no matter how much you try to change external situations. The mind acts like a control center for your life. Every decision you make, every reaction you have, and every step you take is influenced by what you believe and think internally. If your mind is filled with doubt, negativity, and fear, those thoughts will shape your actions in ways that keep you limited and stuck. You may hesitate when opportunities come, expect failure before you even try, or feel overwhelmed by challenges that you could otherwise handle. On the other hand, when your thinking is renewed with truth, faith, and hope, it begins to open new possibilities. You start to see solutions instead of problems, growth instead of failure, and purpose instead of confusion. One of the reasons transformation must start in the mind is because external changes without internal change do not last. A person can change their environment, their habits, or even their relationships, but if their thinking does not change, they often fall back into the same patterns. This is why people sometimes experience temporary improvement but struggle to maintain it. The root has not been addressed. The mind still holds on to old beliefs and attitudes, and eventually those beliefs influence behavior again. True transformation happens when the root is changed, and that root is found in your thinking. Renewing your mind requires intentional effort. It means becoming aware of the thoughts that shape your life and deciding whether they align with truth. It involves letting go of old patterns of thinking that are based on fear, insecurity, or past experiences, and replacing them with thoughts that reflect God's promises and perspective. This process is not instant. It takes consistency, patience, and discipline. But as you continue to choose truth over negative thinking, your mindset begins to shift. As your mind changes, you will begin to notice changes in other areas of your life. Your confidence will grow because you are no longer defined by limiting beliefs. Your decisions will improve because they are guided by clarity rather than confusion. Your emotional state will become more stable because it is not controlled by every passing thought. You will begin to respond to challenges with faith instead of fear, and with wisdom instead of impulse. This kind of transformation is powerful because it is not dependent on circumstances. Even when life is difficult, a renewed mind allows you to remain strong and focused. You begin to live with purpose, seeing beyond temporary struggles and trusting in a greater plan. Everything starts to shift, not because everything around you has changed, but because the way you think has changed, and that inner transformation begins to shape a new direction for your entire life. Taking control of your mind is not something that happens once and lasts forever. It is something that must be practiced daily with intention and consistency. Every single day, new thoughts will come, new challenges will arise, and new emotions will try to influence you. If you're not actively guarding and guiding your mind, it will naturally drift toward negativity, doubt, and fear. This is why discipline is so important. It is not about being perfect, but about being consistent in choosing what is right over what is easy. Many people want a strong, peaceful, and focused mind, but they are not willing to put in the daily effort it takes to develop it. Just like physical strength requires regular exercise, mental and spiritual strength require daily attention. You cannot expect to think positively, act wisely, or stay grounded in truth if you are not feeding your mind with the right things. Discipline means making the choice every day to focus on truth, even when your feelings suggest otherwise. It means waking up and deciding that you will not allow negative thoughts to take control of your attitude or your actions. One of the biggest challenges is that discipline often goes against what feels natural. It is easier to dwell on problems than to focus on solutions. It is easier to believe a lie that has been repeated for years than to replace it with truth that takes time to build. It is easier to react emotionally than to pause and respond wisely. But growth never happens in what is easy. Growth happens when you choose to do what is right, even when it is difficult. This daily decision is what strengthens your mind over time. Taking control also means being intentional about what you allow into your mind. The content you consume, the conversations you engage in, and the environment you surround yourself with all play a role in shaping your thoughts. If you constantly expose yourself to negativity, your mind will reflect that. But if you fill your mind with truth, encouragement, and faith, it will begin to produce those same qualities in your thinking. Discipline is not only about rejecting what is wrong, but also about choosing what is right. There will be days when it feels like you are making progress, and other days when it feels like you are struggling. This is a normal part of the process. Discipline does not mean you will never have negative thoughts. It means you will not allow those thoughts to stay and take control. It means you keep choosing truth even after setbacks. Over time, these small daily decisions begin to build a strong foundation in your mind. Consistency is what creates lasting change. One good decision will not transform your life, but repeated good decisions will. Every time you choose to focus on truth instead of lies, to respond with faith instead of fear, and to think with clarity instead of confusion, you are strengthening your ability to control your mind. These daily choices may seem small in the moment, but they have a powerful cumulative effect. As discipline becomes a habit, taking control of your mind becomes more natural. You begin to notice negative thoughts more quickly and replace them more effectively. Your reactions become more thoughtful, your perspective becomes more positive, and your inner world becomes more stable. This daily practice shapes who you are becoming, and it leads you toward a life that is guided by purpose, strength, and truth rather than by impulse or emotion.